Did you know that there is a course called Women Who Lead where you get to spend hours with me learning how to make every interaction safe, logical, fun, and memorable? Doesn't that sound like a great way to spend some time? It will put tools in your tool belt that will change your trajectory. Give it a shot. Go to www.aimwithus.com and click on courses. I can't wait to see you there.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. You are in for another treat today with my new friend, Bracha Goetz. But before I introduce her to you, I would love for you to follow this podcast. I know I say it every time, and there is a reason behind that. It makes such a difference for you to get to hear from fabulous people like Bracha if you are alerted that they're coming. So make sure now that we are going twice a week, we need everybody to follow, subscribe, and share this with others because brilliant people like Bracha only come along once in the podcast. So it's important that you catch them. And we're so excited that you're here today for your little shot of B12. So I do have a new friend with me today, Bracha Goetz. Bracha is calling all the way from Israel today, and she's lots of things. So she's podcast adjacent because her kids have a podcast that she's kind of the star of. She's an author. She is a mother of 6 children, which makes her a buppy, which is her grandma name, to 37 and a half children. She doesn't know if the baby has been born yet or not. That would make it 38. She's a yogi. She's a dancer, and she's our guest today. Thank you, Bracha, for coming on Productive Joy.
Oh, thank you. I love that. That was great.
Fun to hear a little bit about yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay, so I know you've got all kinds of brilliant things to say to us, but I also know that people only listen for a short amount of time before they get excited. So what would you say to our listeners that will convince them that today's the day they need to listen till the end?
Okay. I'm going to say this. What is the difference between a happy life and a miserable life?
Well, if you have the answer to that, then we should stick around.
Yes, exactly. The answer is how grateful you are. That's really it. That is the difference between a miserable life and a happy life. How grateful you are. Thank God I finally learned that. It took a lot of years, but I finally learned it and it changed my life. And that's why I am doing presentations almost every single day because I just want to share this with the world. It's life-changing.
It is life-changing. And you know what? I by nature have always looked for the good, but it was because of a life circumstance that I had to make a choice. And I'm so grateful, speaking of grateful, that I made the choice to look for the good because the good and the bad are both always there. And we've got to choose
Yes,
where we put our attention, right? And so you do this for
exactly.
people through a whole bunch of books, right? You have written lots of
Yeah.
things for parents and kids. Why don't you tell us? Well, actually, let's back up before we get into that. Tell us your journey that got you to here, because most people I talk to are not in Israel, so there's got to be a story there. And then also, you didn't start here. You were at one point a child yourself, and now you have all these kids in your life. How did you get to where you are?
I would say at around age 12, that the body starts changing, hormones, everything. I started wondering about life. I remember it was like a new awareness. And I started my search for what is the purpose of life. I began at age 12. I had just finished reading The Diary of Anne Frank. So I started my own diary. And from that, that's actually how my memoir, the only book I've written for adults, is Nourish the Soul, Filling the Emptiness Within. Because I didn't actually write this book, I compiled it. It contains my actual diary entries from age 12. It goes from age 12 to 32. It's 20 years, but I just took out the highlights. And you can see me developing food addictions and then healing from the food addictions. And And the reason I put the book together is that I found my old diaries. And when I saw them and I started reading them, I said, oh my goodness, now I understand how I was able to heal. Now that I see this thread through my life, I can understand that I was genuinely hungry. There's an empty hole inside of all of us, and we try to fill it desperately with addictions or just anxiety, depression. We're constantly trying to fill that hole within us, that we're given this hole. But the externalities that we're desperately trying to fill it with, it just gets the hole deeper because it's not a physical hole. It's a genuine spiritual hole that really can only be filled with gratitude. And it took me years to learn this, but when I finally did, basically my world changed from gray, the world had become gray to me by the time the addictions really took over my life. And when I was finally able to heal, the colors returned. That's what it felt like. Everything became vivid and beautiful the way it was really as a child for me, but I lost it for years.
Sure.
And now I got it back for many years now. So that's what I've been sharing. And why I write children's books is to give children these tools from the very beginning of life. I write the books that I wished I had as a child, books that explain what are we here for? What is this all about? And every single book I write, it infuses gratitude into children, some in more subtle ways, and some that's the main topic of the book. But they all help children's souls to shine. That's the whole purpose.
How beautiful. And Bracha, how brave of you to recognize that your story needed to be told and that other people could benefit from hearing that there is somebody else out there who's been through this journey. And I can fully appreciate and understand the gray turned color. I think sometimes we have this film over what we're doing, and when that film gets removed, all of a sudden everything's vibrant again.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes.
But thank you for sharing it. Thank you for not keeping it to yourself or only giving it to your kids, but recognizing, no, the whole world would benefit from this. So nourish the soul, feeling the emptiness within. I think every one of us, even just to hear the title, can relate to that, and how cool that it's your actual story. So 12 to 32 is some change years. Some
Yes.
in those years.
Yes.
What's the biggest story? Is there a story in there, or is there one thing that you feel like you would want to share that would get people really excited about picking up the whole thing? I mean, I'm excited about the whole thing.
Sure. I'm going to describe that in my search for meaning. I started learning about everything. And it was like a thirst, just a hunger and a thirst, just filled me with knowledge. Knowledge was not wisdom, though.
Yeah.
but I kept and then I started, after other point when I was not doing well in school, I started doing really well in school, in high school, studying and learning everything. And somehow I got into Harvard. My parents were like, this is not what they had planned for me. But I was like, just really into learning about everything. So I got there, and I got to know, really like the children of like the most famous people in the world at that time, like in the Kennedys, Moynahans, Rockefellers. I met all these people. I got to know them. And well, Bill Gates, but he wasn't famous then, but he was with me at that time. Yeah, all these people. And I got invited, actually through my boyfriend, to this like really exclusive garden party. And there I was with all these people who were like just power, fame, prestige, everything. And I got to see up front that they were just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And the illusion left, like in those moments. It's a really amazing story, because it was this beautiful day in May at this gorgeous garden party. And all of a sudden, the sky filled up with storm clouds, and there was this huge downpour, and the whole party was ruined.
Oh no.
And I left, and I was so excited, and I said to myself, oh my goodness, all these people couldn't stop the rain from coming down on their party. There's something more. I don't know what it is. And I got to see, I felt like I hit the top of the mountain, and there was really nothing special up there.
For sure.
That to me was a huge gift, a tremendous blessing, because people spend so many years going after illusions, thinking there's something to fame, there's something to wealth, there's something to prestige, power. It's not what brings happiness. I met all these people. They're just looking, they're holding their glass, they're talking to the person in front of them, and they're looking beyond. They're looking for something more, just like we are. That's not the be-all and end-all of life, and it doesn't bring lasting pleasure. We know that from all the famous people we've heard about. But there is something that does bring lasting pleasure, and that's what I was finally able to find. So, and that's gratitude. It's so simple, but it's totally transformative.
Well, I feel like it's been a mantra that I've said. I know I've said it just recently, but simple doesn't mean easy, right? So, yes, it is simple, and we should be grateful for what we have and where we are and what we're doing. But that doesn't mean it's easy, because you do. You look at the people who have the fame and the fortune and that are standing there with the Rockefellers, and you go, okay, but they have this and I don't. Instead of saying, look what I have, right? Like, I'm standing on this one too. So
Exactly.
Harvard, that's just a nice little drop that you threw in there, that you are a Harvard grad. That
Yeah, and I don't seem like it, because I'm not an intellectual kind of person. I write, like, you'd picture me writing all these treatises, and I write the most simple books. I love to take the deepest ideas and present them in the most simple and joyful way possible. That's my essence.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, and it is. And I kind of did a deep dive into your, stuff. You have a lot of content out there too. Like, this is not a one and done situation. You've been doing this for decades, I guess, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and your target audience are children, but I'm going to guess that every parent that's reading this book to their child is going to gain something pretty great. Because the reality is that we are just big kids, right? People try to say we're not, but we are. We have just had more years to hone how we feel and who we are. But ultimately, we have the same needs as that
Yes.
8-year-old or that 10-year-old or that 5-year-old.
Yes.
So how beautiful that you are giving bigger messages than See Spot Run, right? You're
Yes.
that deeper thinking.
Exactly. And the secret that most people don't realize is that every age level reads picture books. We can get the message to the youngest children on earth, the parents, the grandparents. They're all reading the books to the children, and they are also understanding the messages. And teenagers, they pick up the books when no one's looking. I hear from teenagers how they got the message in the books too. So it reaches everybody. That is a secret that most people don't know about picture books.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. If you think about it, everything we do in life is a picture book. Instagram is a picture book. Facebook, right? Your pictures are telling the story, and then you're going to fill in the blanks yourself. And that is pretty beautiful. So what you do is called Impact, right? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Impact?
Yeah.
That's an acronym, right?
Yes, my children made this up. So my children, they just wanted to be a part of what I'm doing. And it's actually my youngest son and his wife and all their children. They are running Growing Impact Publications. So this is what they started with my 40th book. They told me, please don't send it to publishers. Right after I wrote the manuscript, they said, this time we want to become your publishing company. From now on, you're working with us. And they've been so creative and devoted to the mission of spreading joy around the world. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I love that it's a family affair. That's beautiful. So that leads me into my favorite question. So I have my definition of productive joy, and I've heard almost 100 of them at this point. But what is your definition of productive joy? How would you describe productive joy?
Yeah. Productive is spreading it, making more, creating more of something. That's what I love to do. Really, that's what everybody loves to do. It's just such a great feeling when we help other souls to shine, it helps our own soul to shine. That's how it works. So productive joy is a win for everybody.
It
Yeah.
is. Well, and I love that you recognize that it's about others, right? Like, so helping others shine, not necessarily us, although we will shine in the process. There is
Yes.
something rather magical about shining that light on others. And you're doing that with your son too. Like and family.
Yeah.
That's pretty beautiful. So impact stands for important messages for parents and children together, right?
Beautiful. Yes.
That is
Thank
so
you.
great. Well, and I love the concept. I love the thought process that you've put behind it. And you're talking to leaders who want to create more productive joy, who want
Yes.
to find that shot of B12 and share it with their people, whether their people are the people in their house or the people that they work with or work for or who work for them. So, what advice would you give to these leaders who are attempting to do things a little differently and create some productive joy?
It that we are completely there's neuroplasticity in our brains. Thank God. That means we can always change them. If it feels funny at first to become more grateful, it feels awkward even at practicing gratitude. It's like traveling on a gravelly road that nobody's traveled on. It feels weird and awkward. But once you put those grooves in the road, it gets easier and easier. We are creating neural pathways. The more that you practice gratitude, you develop a gratitude brain, and your mind more easily goes in a gratitude pathway. So every single time you practice it, you are getting those neurons to fire, and then they wire together. They fire, they wire, and you create these pathways so that your brain automatically begins to go in a more grateful path. It's called training the brain to scan for positive patterns. We can retrain our brains, and we can also teach this to children as early in life as possible so they don't have to play catch up like we do.
Yeah, right. Because nobody talked about this stuff with us. That's for sure. So here's where I think there's some divine intervention in productive joy because we're recording this. The person that aired on Tuesday, now today's Thursday, but the person that aired on Tuesday talked about the same things. And I'll ever know how it's all going to shake out. But he is a pediatric pulmonologist who then shifted into brain research and has been a
Wow.
counselor for the last 10 years, doing exactly what you're saying with children.
Wow.
We rewiring their brains so that they can heal because these kids are sick. They have something
Exactly.
going on, but their brains are able to heal them. And I love what you're saying. I mean, and so training the brain to scan for the positive. We have both positive and negative things happening at all times.
Yes.
We see where we choose to focus. So I know I've
Yes.
this story before in this podcast, but our family plays a game where we look for yellow cars. And you yell out jugoso when you see the yellow car. That is Spanish for juicy. And I don't think it's really the real Spanish word for juicy, but we have used that. And so when we're playing jugoso, we see yellow cars. It's because we're looking for them. It's not because they didn't
Right.
just appear. And if we're
Right.
not looking for them, we don't see them. It's kind of like when you first find out you're pregnant and everybody around you all of a sudden is pregnant. You're looking for it, right? So I think it's pretty beautiful that you are explaining the science behind how our brains work, but that you've turned that into many children's books who can get you can get these kids to really think through. And as leaders, children's books aren't just for children. And
Yes.
it's definitely an opportunity for us to think about what we're doing to create that productive joy in our space. It's pretty beautiful. I am really impressed. So, Bracha, I have a random question for you. Why Israel? How did you end up, if your family is in Texas, some of your family anyway, how did you end up very far away from here? I'm in Florida, so.
Very good. Excellent. Well, okay, so after Harvard, I went to medical school. I am, and my background also, I love science. I love medicine. You'll see a number of my books also, they deal with public health issues. So even when I was an undergraduate at Harvard, I was taking courses at Harvard Medical School and the Graduate School of Public Health. And this has always interested me. So after my first year of medical school, and also I forgot to mention, when I was at Harvard, I was doing like really groundbreaking research as an undergraduate in eating disorders while I was myself getting sicker and sicker.
Mm.
Nobody could tell that nobody had any idea because when you have an addiction, it's done in secret.
Oh,
Nobody
absolutely.
knows what you're going through. No one has any idea how you're suffering. By the time I got to medical school, my behaviors were so bizarre and keeping everything secret. It was really difficult. I was very miserable, but again, no one could tell. So the summer after my first year of medical school, I had a 6-week break and I went to Israel for the summer. Again, searching for spirituality. And although I was born Jewish, I didn't really know about the spirituality in my own heritage. And I actually looked into a number of different religions too. I was studying all kinds of things, but I got to go back to my roots that summer in Israel, and it changed my whole life. I ended up not going back to America. I ended up staying in Israel, immersing myself in spiritual studies, and I loved it. And that's how I began the healing process. So that's how it began for me. And again, I was curious in later years, why did I begin to heal when I healed spiritually? What did the addictions healing have to do with finally nourishing my hungry soul? So that's what I uncovered in the book. But a few months later, after I came to Israel and began studying here, I met my husband who was on a similar journey. And we got married months later, and we began to raise our family here. And then after a number of years, my parents weren't well. We went back to America, and we lived in America for a whole lot of years too. And now we've finally come back. The children have grown. They've started their own families in America, except for my youngest daughter who lives in Israel. And she lives here in the town that we're living in. So we've come back to where we first met and married and really wanted to be. So now we're here.
I think that's just wonderful. Love that you soul searched, that you figured out
Yeah,
what you really wanted. And it wasn't necessarily med school, and it wasn't necessarily, the path that everybody told you were supposed to take, or that you somehow thought you were supposed to take. You found your own and you healed. And I am most impressed with the fact that your healing wasn't kept to yourself, that you chose to share it with others. And I would call that productive joy. That
right.
is that opportunity to say, yes, this happened to me. And yes, it was hard. And yes, I did the work, but here's how you can do the work. And here are some things that I learned so that you don't have to learn the hard way. What a beautiful soul you are, Bracha. And I'm
Thank you.
so grateful that you chose to share your wisdom here on Productive Joy. We're so lucky.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I do have a question for you. Where would people find you? Like if somebody wanted to get your books, to start reading them to their kids, to read Nourish the Soul, how would they find all of that?
Yeah, great. It's called Growing Impact Publications. My children have created the website and they do all the work because I'm not a business person, obviously. I'm just a person that loves to share. And you could find all my books there. And I give presentations and consultations. And I love what I'm doing. Just one book I wanted to mention is called Don't Read This Book, because it's about what you said. All day long, we are getting messages in our brain telling us to be miserable from morning till night.
Mm-hmm.
This book is written in the voice of that miserable voice. So it's saying, don't read this book or you're going to find out all my tricks. This is how I try to get you to be miserable. So this book took me 30 years to write.
Wow.
I had the title. I had most of it written, but I didn't have the surprise ending until really recently. So this book explains when we become aware, we all have this voice. We each think we're the only one hearing this, but we
Mm-hmm.
all have, and this voice knows our weaknesses. It knows how to get us to focus on what we're lacking. You're missing this, or I'd be happy if I just had that. It's all day long doing that. Once we become aware of that, we can push it off. We can empower ourselves to recognize that, oh, you're just trying to get me to be miserable. But I can push you off and grow my gratitude muscles. That's the purpose of that voice, to get us to push it away and grow our gratitude muscles. So we all have it. It's like a personal trainer. And when we recognize that, and the earlier in life we recognize it, or at whatever point, we can get our power back and choose gratitude.
Oh, Bracha, that was beautiful. And for anybody who's not watching, I need you to rewind this. Oh gosh, how old? Go back a little bit on this and watch, because not only did Bracha show you the book, don't read this book, but she even has weights nearby and is able to visually show exactly what she was just saying. This is that we're building muscles in our brain
Yes.
that
Yes.
will allow us to stop the misery and stop the crap, right? Like why do we focus on those things? Well, it's because we get it in our own way, right? Like we don't have to believe every stupid thing we hear. That's right. Like in our brains, every stupid thing our brain says does not have to be listened to. It's okay to say, you know what? No, I am not a bad person, or I am not, incapable, or I am not whatever, whether you think you can or
Right.
you can't, you're right. So
Right.
this,
Right. We all have so much to be grateful for. Every single person listening has so much to be grateful for.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so for those productive joy listeners, I'm always challenging you to find a nugget. There's your nugget. We have so much to be grateful for. So Bracha, I could talk to you all day, but I know that you've got other things to do today. So would you do me a favor and answer some rapid fire questions?
Okay, let's
Okay.
go.
All right. This is my favorite part. Ready? What is your definition of fun?
I love to call it joy. I just prefer to call it joy. Joy is when your soul is shining. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah.
Your soul is shining. Oh my goodness, I want more of that. Okay. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
Oh, I learned that intuition, you know that sometimes you get these thoughts and they're clear and they're fast and they feel urgent. That's usually, watch out for those. But clear, fast, and calm, that is your authentic self. That is your intuition talking. The calmness is the important thing. When you feel a calmness about it, then you know you're talking from your authentic, real self.
Ah, I love that. Beautiful. Okay. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
That's it. You find something really small to be grateful for. At the worst point in my life, and I felt completely deserted and abandoned, there was still a tree outside my window, and I just focused on that tree. There is something beautiful in the world still. I know that. I see this tree. I often pick an orange because it's such an amazing thing. It's filled with so much wisdom and loving kindness. If you mindfully eat an orange, oh my gosh, there's
You know
just
what?
so much to it.
And I did that this morning. So that's kind of cool. Just so happened. Just so happened.
Wonderful.
Okay. This is going to be a tough one because you have said all kinds of brilliant things. I feel like there were so many just simple nuggets. Like you said, simple, not easy, but simple. So, if people can only remember one major thing from what you said today, what is the one thing that you really want people to take away from this conversation?
I'm going to say this: to overcome a habit, you need a greater or more lasting pleasure to sub in. You don't need restriction. Pour in the joy. If you want to overcome a habit, it can take 400 repetitions to change a new habit. But if you do it joyfully, 10 to 20 repetitions and you've got it down.
Really? Wait a minute. So hold on. That was a nugget of wisdom for sure. So 400 times it takes if you're not doing it with joy, but 10
Yeah,
to 20 if you are.
exactly.
All right, y'all. So we got to find a little more joy. You're going to need a little
Yes.
more in your life so that you can get things done. Because who has time to do something 400 times when
But
it
we
can
do.
only
That's
do?
why habits are so hard to change usually. But
Ah.
we can change them joyfully. It happens so quickly.
Oh
Thank
my
God.
goodness. Well, thank you for that, Bracha. And thank you for your time today. You could have been doing anything else, but you chose to spend this time with us. And we're so, so grateful for that and grateful for you. Thank you. And so, for all of our Productive Joy listeners, my goodness, y'all, we are being peppered with wisdom and we are being gifted some really practical, really simple, not easy things that we can do to bring more productive joy. So I'm going to challenge you, as I always do, to figure out a way to turn fun into action.